Well, hello, and welcome to Bloom Talks.
Good to be with you again.
Likewise. So, today we're going to be, the title of our talk is something that you might be interested in. It's entitled Making Love All the Time. So, I know that may seem like kind of tricky. How do you actually do that all the time, everywhere?
Okay, I'll get that.
So looks like I'm alone here, but I have a feeling that Linda's going to be back. So we're going to be distinguishing between making love and having sex, which sometimes go together, but not necessarily. Sometimes you can make love and not have sex. Sometimes you can have sex and not make love. So we're going to see what that looks like and how that goes, right?
Well, if you're going to make love and it's not going to be sex, then you've needed an expanded definition of what lovemaking is. So it can include, of course, genital contact and sensual and sexual pleasure, but it's so much bigger than that. And if we can wrap our mind around being really creative and really expansive, there's so many things that we do and can do more of that can be making love all day long whenever we're with our partner. We can take time to have a little look into each other's eyes. Some people call that soul gazing. And that can be a very intimate moment. And it certainly counts as lovemaking. Only takes a few seconds.
But who's counting?
But the connection can be so strong and quickly. Committed listening, when you're really showing up and you're hearing your partner, being their believing eyes, having confidence in them, particularly in the areas that they may have some feelings of insecurity and lacking in confidence. That is a profound form of making love to them. Just at a girl, at a boy, I know that you can do this. You got this handled. Don't worry about it. These are essential for a great relationship. And these are all on the very positive end of the spectrum. I don't want people to get the idea that if you confront and bring up the tough subjects and struggle with the difficult issues that may be between you, that doesn't count as lovemaking. Because the committed listening that takes place there, the respectful listening and the negotiations that take place can be extremely loving forms of interaction. So to think expansively, to think creatively about what are the ways in which we can make love in any place, anytime. Although a lot of couples are doing this. The happiest couples that we know are making love all the time. So you have some ideas, some favorites of your own?
Not really. But
I've got a lot.
I know you do. I know. One of the ways that we make love, or that I actually, the way I see it is what we're talking about here is expressing love.
That's right.
As opposed to making it, because it's already there. But what we want to do is to manifest it.
Right.
And manifest it can show up in many, many ways. It can show up in terms of actions that we can take, like giving a gift to our partner, or saying something complimentary to them, or just taking any action that in some way is an expression of our care and our devotion and our appreciation, and to do it in a playful way too. Because
the
love making is playful.
The love making that is good-natured teasing,
Mm.
and when we share a little fun and a joke and a laughter, I consider that love making. No doubt about it.
Yeah, so it's really the exchange of love. It's the manifestation of love. It's the expression of it. And like I said, it can be in things that we do or say, but it can also be in what we don't do and say. It can be restraining ourselves from saying something that might be perceived by them as insulting or critical or hurtful, to use some self-restraint rather than indulging a desire to do or to say something that they could perceive as being hurtful or critical. It can also have to do with just being considerate of your partner and doing things that they might not even notice, but are going to make their life more easy, more pleasurable. Just experiencing and expressing care and consideration to them, and being, keeping in our heart and in our mind and in our feelings those desires that we have to make their life easier and more pleasurable.
And I consider all the things that you do to lighten my load. When you do the laundry, when you stop at the post office box and you take the mail out, all of these things, they are gifts to me. And I consider your ways in which throughout the day, you're making my life a little bit easier. If you see that there's an important message on the voicemail and you remind me to go and take that off and respond to the message or the email, all these I consider in the category of making love. Now, of course, some of them are more fun and more pleasurable than others. So touchaholic that when we cuddle in the morning before we get up and when we cuddle in the evening before we go to sleep, the kisses goodnight, that's clearly lovemaking. When we take a walk and you take my hand, just walking out in public, but I feel that exchange of affection, that's profound lovemaking in my book. And I consider it making love all day. When I'm cooking for you and I'm thinking about how you're going to savor this dish that I'm making, that's my making love to you when you're not even really there, because I'm holding you in my heart. And then when you show up at the table and we share the meal and I see you really enjoy it and you thank me for the delicious meal that I cooked, that's more lovemaking going on.
Well, I see it as a pattern, as a cycle of interactions through which we both are giving and operating from an intention to give to each other that which we know that in this particular moment will enhance the quality of their life in some way. So when I do something that you find appreciative, like any of those small things that you mentioned,
they're big things to me.
Well, there's no such thing as an irrelevant or an insignificant action towards your partner that is motivated by a feeling of desire to express love. Mm-hmm. So everything counts, everything matters. And so what might appear to be something small and insignificant is actually much more meaningful and has an impact that's probably greater than we realize. And when you thank me, when you notice that I've done something that I didn't even know that you noticed, then I feel like that is an enhancement to me. So it's these mutual reciprocal exchanges that we have, because I mean, lovemaking really is an exchange of energies. It's an exchange of goodwill to each other. And it is, as we continue to reinforce and re-engage in these exchanges, the foundation of our relationship becomes stronger.
That's
becomes
right.
more solid.
And when the foundation of the relationship is solid and the trust is there, that the other person really cares and values, you still have your differences, but they don't irritate as much. They don't aggravate as much. They don't loom as large. And there was a time many decades ago, fortunately, where we didn't make love all day, where we were disconnected a lot. And then even small things could be really aggravating. And I'm glad that, we've graduated past that. I want to mention that I'm one of the people who believes that foreplay is everything that went on since the last time we had sex up until this time, and that it all counts. And all of that lovemaking in many different forms that goes on in the form of foreplay gets us ready to have the deepest sexual connection with each other, and to have the lovemaking be pervasive that way. Just the context of our life, the whole environment. It's an easy slide into being lovers in the sexual sense. And then when the sexual interaction, the frankly sexual interaction is over, there is a slide into the other creative ways of love making, and it's just all of a piece. The non-sexual, and then the sexual, and then the non-sexual, and the sexual. And as far as I can tell, those of us who are doing this are staying pretty high a lot of the time. So there's a lot in it for both of us. And some people don't even have the concept that it's possible to be making love all day, anytime, any place. And so we're hoping to plant some seeds to see whether you believe that it's possible for you, and how creative you can be, and how you can collaborate with the person who is your lover in the life to expand it and create your own juicy love story.
One of the things that we can do that is the most loving for each other is to mutually commit to keeping the space between us as clean and as clear as possible. Meaning that we don't allow incompletions to accumulate, that we don't allow resentments to accumulate. Of course, we're going to experience moments or times where, we get triggered, or we get disturbed, or we get reactive, and that's going to happen on occasion. Hopefully it doesn't happen too much, but when the inevitable does happen, and one of us is particularly sensitive to something, or we're having a bad day, or we just get triggered for some reason, if we have a clean space between us, if there's no resentments that are undealt with, if there's no unfinished business there because we've handled things as they've come up, then we're going to be able to just deal with that right away. And it'll just be a little blip on the screen rather than one more thing that's going to weigh us down. It's going to distract us and keep us from feeling open and receptive and generous with each other. So that's something that really does make a difference. That is a form of lovemaking, is to both share that commitment to not let anything fester.
I want to mention one of my favorite forms of making love with you. And that's what I refer to as intellectual lovemaking, with the exchange of ideas. Do you know that we're both signature strength, hungry learners, that we both have that in the fabric of our being from the first day that we met. And I remember back to when you would meet me after your work, and I would be studying in the library. And when we would walk home from the library, we would have these intense discussions about the things that we had been studying, and how that was a characteristic of the very beginning of our relationship that's carried through for the 50 years. That you come home from the library with carrying 6 books about all varieties of subjects, and that we discuss what we're learning, particularly about how people grow, how people learn, how people maintain their gains, how they bounce back after adversity to become stronger at the broken places. Personal growth is such a passionate area of interest for us, and we have these animated discussions about that on a frequent basis. And I find it so enlivening to have those kinds of discussions. I think that we're in discovery, and I get really lit up about the throwing ideas like confetti and that co-creative interchange that we get into. I consider that lovemaking of the high order.
Yeah, I'm with you. I appreciate that aspect of our relationship. But I mean, I don't want people to get the idea that, we're just a couple of eggheads who just live in the world of books.
No.
I mean, that is an important part of our lives. But I think what is equally, if not more important, is the aspect that I mentioned a few minutes ago, which is playfulness and having fun and bringing pleasure and enjoyment and sharing experiences with each other that and with other people that are fun and give ourselves a joy jolt. And I know that's been easier for me than than for you in some ways, because
it comes naturally to you. You own that inner child, the playful child.
Your tendency has always been to be a little more serious than me, which is a good thing, because sometimes I can be a little less serious than I should be. So I mean, that's a good balance there, that we can really kind of complement each other in the sense of supporting each other in ways that the other person is stronger.
Yeah.
So, I think that aspect of fun and enjoyment, pleasure, playfulness, that's key, because what's the point if the process is an ordeal?
And I want to just say something about letting yourself be viewed while you're doing these creative forms of lovemaking, like kissing in public or holding hands in public, or acknowledging each other and declaring your love in front of people. This is what I consider to be risky behavior that a lot of people don't dare to do. They keep it behind closed doors. And I feel a little sad about that, because I feel like the world needs a lot more love. And I know that you're more on the private side about this than I am. But when we're in the home of our children and our grandkids are there and they see us hold hands, or they see us hug, or they see us kiss, that's a form of lovemaking. And I think it inspires them, and it goes into their consciousness that they could have a romantic partnership one day where they were making love a lot of the time with their partner. And I'm happy to be models of being loving partner with you for other people to see, our students, our clients, our family members and friends.
You're raising an interesting point. It kind of got me thinking when you said that this is risky. And I do think you're right. I think that for a lot of people, it does feel uncomfortable or feels risky.
Right.
But why do you think that is? Why is it that something that is so natural and so in some ways so beautiful the expression and the sharing of one's appreciation and love for the other one. Why does that feel like a risk?
I think that some people are embarrassed to let their love for each other show. So they tamp it down and they're inhibited about it and wait until the privacy of their own home or their own bedroom. But I also think that there can be a dynamic that people are fearful that others might be envious of them. They maybe think that they're flaunting it, or they may feel like they're rubbing it in, that they don't have that. And I just wish that people weren't so closeted about their demonstrations of love, whether it's private or it's public. My definition of love is not that it's just an emotion, and not that it's just a feeling, that it's behavior that demonstrates your devotion to the other person. And I really wish that people were more outward about letting it show.
So when we are affectionate, which, in public, which is not, I mean, you're right. I am a little more private.
You're modest. Yeah.
Yeah. But when, we might show that by holding hands or kissing or whatever occasionally. It's not like we do it all the time, but.
And I would do it a lot more if you weren't so modest. I'm stretching to contain myself.
Yeah. Well, what is it that you think other people, how do you think they might be responding or feeling, observing us doing that?
Maybe they'd be inspired. Maybe they'd be inspired to be a little bit more out themselves, out of the closet. Because I think people are feeling love for each other, affection and admiration for each other, and they keep that light under the barrel. And the world needs more full expression of that sweet energy. I think people are tense and frightened and disconnected way more than it really needs to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think you're right. So now what?
I'm happy we're writing our own love story.
I'm going to show my love for you right now by allowing you to say whatever you want to say right now, and I'll listen. That's my way of being loving to you.
My closing remarks
are
my appreciation and gratitude to you about how over the years you've come out of the closet to be more demonstrative, to be more affectionate. I think you're a hell of a great lover in the comprehensive, creative form. And it certainly has enhanced my life. When you weren't as demonstrative, I had doubts about how much you really felt it, how much you desired me, how much you valued me. And your being more expressive privately and when we're in public has meant a great deal to me. So I'm glad that you were willing to take some influence from me in this department. When you take influence from me, whether it's about being more expressive or of your love, or anything, you take influence from me, that to me is you're making love with me.
Well, you are. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that acknowledgement. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it. And you are a very significant, very impactful influence on me and on my life, but not in the way you used to try to be.
Yeah.
Where you would try to get me to be the way you wanted me to be. More, there was coercion and pressure, I felt. But ironically, as you have shown, as you've become more able to show your love without that effort to coerce me to be.
Without so much fear. It's a pure form now.
What the way you're.
It used to be so fear-based, and you would react to that
Well,
Yeah, I feared our
came
being
across-
disconnected.
it came across as pressure, like, you need to be this way because the way you are now isn't working for me, and I need you to be different. I mean, that was the message. You didn't say that.
Yeah,
But
but you
that
were
was
feeling
the
my
feeling.
tension.
Yeah, yeah. So as you've done kind of your own work with yourself and really taken responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for being the change that you wanted to see in me,
Right.
for being that way, and for giving me what I really wanted more of, which was less pressure and more space to decide how I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I was so busy kind of like fending off what felt to me like pressure,
Right.
that I didn't even have a chance to get in touch with, well, what do I want?
Mhm.
What's here? What really am I feeling? And as you did that, and as you made that shift within yourself, I became more able to find you much more attractive, because now you're giving me an example. You're teaching. You're offering an example to me of what you wanted from me. You were being the way you wanted me to be.
Right. And I'm really glad that we moved through that
Yeah.
rocky time, because I feel that for the most part now, what we do in our many forms of making love all day is a celebration
Mm-hmm.
of what we have achieved. And it has really been worth it to work out all those tensions and fears and doubts and withholds and
Yeah.
getting complete. And I just feel like we rejoice and celebrate, and that we just have, one fiesta after another.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I lived to see the day. We both lived to see the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we offer that. I'm glad that I was an example and that I lived.
Well, you continue to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I offer it to other people to consider. Would you like to make love all day? Does that interest you? Do you have some motivation and passion to think about and vision what that would be like, and invite, your partner to join you with that? And give yourself credit for the ways that you're doing it already that you might not have defined as lovemaking, because I would bet, that you have many forms that you just haven't labeled as that. And you maybe could add to them and have more fun in your life. Okay, So the topic for next week's Facebook Live talk is the characteristics of happy couples. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
All the best.